Brought to you by CHM, a biblically based alternative to health insurance. Learn more at chministries.org/budget.
Well, first I want to give a shout out. I started with Dave's program many years ago. I'm 67 now, and by the time I was 55, I could retire. And now I'm doing the things I love and volunteering. So,
well done, Dan. Congratulations.
Trying to spread the word, But so. Yeah, I'm working on brevity here. So there's four of us kids. I'm the oldest is 68. The youngest is 61. And number two is my sister, and she's the administrator, the trustee of the estate. And so my mother's 95, and when she passes, we all receive between $500,000 and $750,000.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, life-changing money. My wife and I are both debt-free. I mean, literally no debt. Dave would laugh if he heard that my truck has 300,000 miles on it. But
He'd tell you to go get a new truck, Dan.
He would. Go get a new truck, Dan. I'm telling you, go get a new truck, Dan.
Thanks, guys. I'm kind of in love with this thing. But so the problem is the two youngest ones have asked my mother for money before over the years. Both a little bit over 100,000, and one of them, number three, has a $900 car payment, $2,400 a month apartment payment, about 160,000 credit card debt, and even though she makes six figures, cannot emotionally control her spending. The youngest one, we inherited about $100,000 from my father some 10 years ago, and I said, if you blow this money, I'm going to punch you in the nose. And 6 months later, he had a quad and a snowmobile and didn't pay off his house. He's been bankrupt. And
did you hit him?
So
Just kidding. I know.
Pardon? No.
No, I know.
The problem is I'm not too worried about it. I've been working since I was 13. And my sister's a hard worker too. But the problem is she's worried they're going to come to the door, when they're 70 or 80, begging for money. You have money, I have no money. And we're trying to figure out how to handle the coming, basically, tsunami of what they're going to bring to the table. Now, the trust comes in two parts. The one trust, everybody gets an equal share right away. And then the second trust, my sister and I both get our share, but those two, my mother broke it up so that it's like 5 years apart, something like that. But if you have any advice for how to handle people who blow through money, have no control, I got my brother on Dave's program. He was good for a year and then fell off the wagon.
So, hey, Dan, here's the hard thing. I'll answer it, but here's the hard thing, okay?
Yes, sir.
The answer to this question has nothing to do with them.
Okay. I told my sister that. I said, I have no problem, in
That's
my
right.
heart, knowing that over the years, over 20, 30 years, going on 40 now, I have ministered, I have given material, I've done everything I can.
But here's the thing. It was never about you.
Right.
They're struggling. And so it sounds like what especially your sister, but I'm sure deep down you're dealing with it too, is you're frustrated at the future guilt that may come your way.
Boy, yep, you're nailing it on the head.
But here's what's hard. If you live like that right now, what you're doing is you're not mitigating the guilt in the future, you're just spoiling today.
You're absolutely right.
And so I'm going to choose for peace and joy and warmth and laughter in the right now, and I'm going to be very clear about my boundaries moving forward.
Right.
And so the harder conversation will be sitting down with your brother and sister who are adults who could have never, they could care less what you have to teach them. They think, I'm sure when they get coffee together, they're talking about you and your sister. All they do is work and they never, whatever. is saying, hey, here's the distribution. There's don't come to us.
Right.
Or you and your wife sit down.
And you're saying just saying it out loud when you guys all have
you put yes. I heard Becky Kennedy say this the other, Dr. Kennedy say this, and I loved it. She said a boundary is something that requires nothing from anyone else other than you.
Wow, that is awesome.
So you're going to set this boundary we're all going to be clear. There's no more money after this. And if you, as a loving brother, want to say, I'll hook you up with the Ramsey Solutions, I'll hook you up with the plan that set me and my wife free, y'all want that? Great. I'm not going to preach to you. I need everybody, it needs to be on record that y'all are getting a check for $750,000. Y'all are going to have to learn to manage this, because when you're 80, you can't come knocking on my door. Here's the other side of that. You and your wife might sit down and say, when that day comes, are we really going to leave our brother on the street? And if not, then say, okay, then we'll start a small fund, or like y'all get to decide what you do with that moving forward. But what y'all are doing, you and your sister are doing, is you're living every minute frustrated by things that other grown adults are choosing to not do.
And that haven't really happened yet either.
And that haven't even happened, exactly. And
No,
so you're
100% correct.
Brene Brown calls it dress rehearsing tragedy. I love that.
Oh,
So
God.
you're already having imaginary conversations that you at 82 are going to have with an 80-year-old little brother. Don't do that. You're just blowing like, you should be laughing, especially when you're truck shopping, because God, get a new truck, dude. But and I'm playing with you. My truck has 200,000 miles, so I'm with you.
That's awesome.
I'm with you. But you get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And, I've actually had this conversation with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I are in a new marriage, and some people didn't like the idea that we got married and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, look, this is all about us now.
Yeah, they don't get a vote. Who cares? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's really tearing my sister up. And
But she-
I know
Well,
she's-
Dan, and I think that we sometimes live under this illusion that we can change people, that if we say the right thing or we give the right book or we do whatever it may be, that's somehow going to be the magic moment of the light bulb going off in their head of like, oh my gosh. And we put that responsibility on ourselves. And I hear this more from your sister, the way you're talking about your sister. And so, yeah, maybe you hang up with us and call her and relieve her, right? I mean, like, tell her about this call. But you both don't need to sit there feeling this like hero complex that it's our responsibility somehow to change our 62-year-old sibling.
yeah.
But
And-
also,
I hear you.
your parents put her in a very maternal role.
They did. And they were really bad with money and came into it late in life. And my sister and I have been working literally since we've been 13, which is fine. We both love working. And,
Sure.
But, to think that I'm going to give it away to somebody who's lived this profligate life and, it's just ludicrous.
So here's the deal.
And
I would sit down with
down
with your sister and say, as your little brother or as your older brother, I want to remind you, they have a mom, and it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
All her job
Good point.
is to distribute the funds in the way that mom asked. That's it.
Not manage
I'm not going to
everybody's.
manage you. I'm not going to try to pseudo parent through mom from the grave. I'm not doing any of that stuff.
Put all that weight on her.
That's it.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
she has to decide, I'm not going to be their 78-year-old mother. I'm going to be their older sister, just doing what mom asked me to do.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty much what I've told her, and she's still in fear. She has that guilt, like you guys were saying. And, I learned this volunteering at the hospital. A man once told me, he goes, you see a crisis based on how you're living, but they don't see a crisis.
That's right.
And they don't see a crisis, but
That's right.
they're still asking for
They
money.
sound like a lot of Americans right now that think that's just going to continually go on forever and ever. Amen. And it's not.
Yeah, and Dan, too, you can be a great listening ear for your older sister, too, but don't carry her weight either.
That's right,
I mean,
that's right, yeah.
because part of your call has been a lot of her concern, too.
That's right.
And don't carry that either, Dan. It's this like kind of individualness that I think is really important for you guys because you're taking on a lot. Your sister's emotion that's doing things well, but she's frustrated and fearful, and then the siblings that aren't. So,
And just
there's a
because
lot
you
of
feel
things.
guilty doesn't mean it's not the wrong decision. Just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing.
CHM isn't health insurance. It's a health cost-sharing ministry. Check it out for yourself at chministries.org/budget.